Hi, I'm Dr. Balaji Narayanaswamy Ramanathan. This is my channel NNR STR School of Wisdom. Today we will be discussing The Theosophic Life by Annie Besant. There are certain ways of looking at life that seem to grow naturally out of our theosophical studies. I would fain, it's written by Annie Besant, I would fain inspire my readers with fresh energy and determination amid the trials of the moment to carry out in everyday life the doctrines we so continually study. For if theosophy be not a science of life, if the theosophist by the divine wisdom that he studies does not become wise for the helping of all around him, then his life is really worse than the ordinary life. For where the inspiration is greater, then not to rise is to fall lower than the ordinary man. There is a great truth in the parable where it is said that the man who did not use his talent was worthy of the heaviest punishment, and he who knew and did not act should be beaten with many stripes, whereas those who did not know, did not act, should be beaten with few. Now the theosophist cannot pretend that he does not know. On every side, knowledge pours in on him. Where these duties of knowing our doing ought to be better than the doing of the majority around us. And unless we can justify theosophy in life, the less we profess ourselves to be the theosophist, the better. Here Annie Besant says, Theosophy is flood of knowledge, and theosophists should use in their life. And if they are not using it, then the punishment for them should be more for those who do not know this theory, this knowledge. Now, what are the main points in life on which brighter light shines out from the very object to be a nucleus of brotherhood? Our chief work ought to lie in helping so far as we can everything that makes for brotherhood, and thus realizing that it must not be a mere empty profession. I will not pause there, but will take the two great doctrines of reincarnation and karma. Now, what difference ought to appear in a life in which the doctrine of reincarnation is definitely held? First of all, looking at life with the wider horizon should give us a patient strength and an absence of hurry, which are not very characteristics of modern life. With the loss of the doctrine of the pre existence of the soul from Christianity and the consequent endless of heaven and hell, the whole fate of an everlasting condition was made to depend on a single life. Inevitably, with the change of thought, hurry became one of the marks of life. Just as in a boat where there is a danger of wreck, there is a panic and struggle. So, with all those who believe in that nightmare of an everlasting hell and the dream of an everlasting heaven, this element of hurry enters into life. So much to do, such vast issues, and so brief a time, life becomes a struggle in which failure is to be met with everlasting pain. With the loss of belief in reincarnation, to be saved has almost its ancient meaning that the cycle of rebirth was over and that the man had become a pillar, the temple of my God, to go forth no more. The old Christian idea was not to be saved from hell, but from the ever recurring cycle of rebirth, the perpetual resurrections in the flesh of the Tertullian spoke. To him that overcometh was the promise to become a pillar in the great temple of humanity, no more to go out, but to support the temple as a mighty upholding strength. The splendid idea of salvation has turned into the petty individual salvation of a single unit of the human race. But when it is realized that we have many chances, that every failure brings success a little nearer, and if the last failure is the threshold of success, then a great strength grows into life. There is plenty of time, endless opportunities, and the fall of today is the rising of tomorrow. And slowly, as the thought of reincarnation becomes part of us, a principle to be lived, if we find our life takes on the calmness, the serenity which come from the consciousness of an immortal life. We are living one day out of many days, and what we cannot do today, tomorrow, we shall inevitably achieve. Mighty is the power of it. When it is fully recognized, when we feel that there is nothing beyond our strength, for we have time during which our strength may gradually evolve. But not only that, all the people around us take on a new aspect when we realize the fact of reincarnation. With our friends, we have a closer tie, for everyone we know as a friend comes out of our past. Spirit hailing spirit across the blinding wheel of the material body, and we realize that the immortality of love as we realize the immortality of life. And when instead of friends we meet an enemy, how different the aspects when we know the truth of reincarnation. What is the enemy? Someone we have wronged in the past, someone to whom we owe a debt, and he comes forward to claim it. The payment sets us free. He is a liberator, not an enemy. He gives us the opportunity of paying off a debt, without the payment of which liberation may never be ours. When we see him in that light, what becomes of anger or resentment? What becomes of any feeling save gratitude to the one who takes from us the payment of an ancient debt and leaves us free to go along our road? None can injure us save ourselves. The enemy who seem to strike is only our own hand striking our own face, our own action come up in a new incarnation. If we are angry, then we are angry with ourselves, are revengeful against ourselves. There is no enmity when one's reincarnation is thoroughly understood. Looking at all this, a great bitterness will go out of our life. For the thing that hurts is not the injury, but is the resentment, the sense of wrong, the feeling of being unfairly treated. Those are the stings which give pain to any action. When it is only the payment of a debt, none of those is present. There is only the bringing into the equilibrium of ancient wrong. All the stings vanish and the mere activity remains, which is the restoration of equilibrium. Here, Annie Besant says that every incident in our life, a friend or enemy, is connected in our past life. So, whatever we receive now and whatever we are not receiving is the mark of for the exam which we have written in our previous life. So, whatever comes to us, we should accept it and we should acknowledge it. We should acknowledge it, and then no reincarnation will come to us. So, that is the way we have to approach life, reincarnation. And when thus we have looked at friends and enemies, what of the circumstances of life? Reincarnation makes us realize that the circumstances around us are exactly those that are best for our growth and evolution. It is a profound blunder to imagine that in any other circumstances we could do better than we are doing now. People say, if only my circumstances were different, I could lead such a much more useful life. Error. You are doing the most where you are. Anywhere else you do worse, not better. You are surrounded by exactly the things you want for the next step on the upward path. And the moment you are ready to take any other line in life, that moment that line of life will open before you. Is there a clock in the family? That is exactly the clock wanted to teach you patience. Is there business that interferes with you? That is the thing you want, to bring out qualities in which you are deficient. In every single case, so wise is the good law. The circumstances around you are the very best that the wisdom of an archangel would plan for your growth and unfolding. The peace that no knowledge brings to life, it is impossible to describe. All fretting vanishes, all worrying ceases to be. Anxiety for something different no longer gnaws at the heart. A complete, absolute perfect content comes down upon the soul. And in that content, the lesson of the trying environment has been learned, and it will gradually modify life. Anibison says here, in every situation in our life is an examination, is a test. There we should qualify. How we should qualify? With the unconditional accept it as it is and acknowledge it. You can say, I am responsible, I am sorry, thank you, and love you the situation. And even that is not all the benefit which grows out of a real understanding of reincarnation. It gives infinite tolerance, infinite patience with all around us. The great trouble of the truly good man or woman is the people who will not be good in the way that he or she wants them to be good. If only my neighbor would do what I think he ought to do, how much better his life would be. Good people worry themselves almost to death, not in improving their own lives, but in reforming the lives of their neighbors. That is all waste work. That is all waste work. The self in each knows his own path much better than the self in anybody else can judge it for him and establish his road in life according to the unfoldment that he desires and needs. He takes his best path, but you say he is doing on a wrong path. Wrong for you, perhaps, but right for him. The lessons that self wills in his present body to learn. How can judge? Do we know every incident of his past experience, his past trials, failures, victories, so that we can say what now he wants for the next step in his unfolding life? That experience that seems to you so terrible may be the very experience he needs. The failure that you think so bad may be the very failure that will make success inevitable. We cannot judge our own lives blinded by the body. How then shall we judge the life of another? There is no lesson more vital than not to try to control and shape others according to our own ideas. Has it never struck us that in this world, which is God's, there are infinite varieties of forms, infinite differences of experience? Why? Because only in that infinite diversity can the infinite powers of the self be made manifest. What is a fault to us? Blinded and ignorant is just what is wanted when it looked at from the other side. We need to choose our path according to the knowledge and consciousness and leave others to choose there. Here Annie Besant says that we should take care of ourselves. The same thing is told in the At the Feet of Master. Never interfere in others' life. His Lord of Karma knows what to be done. You do your work. Mind your own business. That is what it is. Most often, when we enter the path, we are not concerned with us. We want to correct the world. We want to transform the world. Anibison says, never do it. But you may say, do you mean we should never advise, never counsel? No, that is the fair help you may give. But you should not try to coerce, should not say, you must now do this. The self is in every man, as the great saying I have so often quoted from Egypt says, he makes his own path according to the world. The world means that which is sounded out by nature, when perfect made up of endless vibration, making a note, and the whole of the notes making the chord of that particular life. That is the word. According to the word of the individualized self, he makes his path. Sometimes in a chord of music, a discord is necessary for the perfection of the harmony. It sounds very bad, standing alone, but as part of the harmony of a great chord, that note that was so discordant and encourages and renders perfect chord. Half the secret of the wonderful chords of Bethelin lives in the power with which he uses discords. Without them, how different his music would be, how much less rich, less melodious, and less splendid. And there are much apparent discords in human life. Clashing out alone, they startle and even horrify us in the final word. Those discords also find a resolution, and the whole chord of life is perfect. Reincarnation teaches us that we see such a mere fragment of a life that we cannot judge it. If I almost covered up a picture on the wall, How could a spectacular judge of the beauty or lack of beauty of the whole? Similar, how shall we judge of the beauty of the picture in which what seems to us a defect may be the shadow that lends depth and the beauty to the whole life? That is so much more complex than we imagine. If all the lives were made according to our stupid ideas, what sort of a universe should we see around? But the universe is God's thought, and He is manifesting in its every point. And when we see what seems to us as sin, it is wise to ask ourselves what is meant by the manifestation of the self, not to condemn it. Then we learn. We need not copy it. For us, it may be evil, but we should never judge our neighbor. That is the law laid down in every great scriptures. The attitude of the Theosophy should always be that of a learner in life. What has this man or that circumstances to teach me? What I have to learn from this problem? In this way, we should look at life, and doing so, we could be so interested in it that we should have no time to judge or blame. Our life would begin to the life of wisdom. Here, Annie Besant says that in Theosophy, there is a book called How We Can Remember of a Past Life. So, if we know our past life, then we know what is coming to us. The similar thing is told to Arjuna by Krishna. See, you don't know your past life, I know my past life. So, this is the problem we face because every situation, every people which we come across are connected in our past life. So, we need not know what is the real thing. This is a beautiful picture, but the shades are there. What is the shade? The actions and the words spoken by that people. So it is not. The real self is one and everyone. It is one world. Karma, a continuous creation. Much more might be said along these lines, but let me turn now to one of the most misunderstood of theosophical teaching, the doctrine of karma. Few things perhaps are so dangerous as a little knowledge of the law of karma. And unhappily, many of us have stopped at the point of a little knowledge. We need to remember how karma is made up and judge it by what we know and not by what we fancy. People often talk of karma as though it were a kind of great lump which is flung down on a man's head at birth, against which he can do nothing. Sometimes this occurs, but in the vast majority of cases, the karma that you are making every day is modifying all the results of the karma of the past. It is a continuous creation and not something lying in wait for us, and it is not a sword hanging over us that may drop on us at any moment. One way of appreciating this practically is to remember the karmic laws. Thought makes character, desire, opportunity, activity, environment. Look back over any one day and you will find your thoughts very mixed, some useful, some mischievous. And if we are to strike the balance, the resultant of the intermingling of all those thoughts in the karmic stream might be very difficult to determine. So, with desires, part of the life, you are desiring nobly, part of it badly, sometimes wisely, sometimes stupidly. The resultant of your day's desire also is not easy to see. It is certainly very mixed. So, with your actions, some hasty words, some kinds, some gentle, some harsh, some very mixed ones. The study of one day will prove to you that you are creating a very mixed karma, and that is hard to say whether the outcome is for good or for evil. Apply that to your past lives, and you will get rid of notion of enormous stream that is sweeping you away. The stream is made up of thousands and thousands of different currents, and they play themselves off one against the other. With very many of the decisions that you take and the actions that follow on the decision, the scales of karma are balanced. A real understanding of karma is a stimulus to assertion. At any moment, you may change the issue of destinies and may weigh down one scale or another of your fate. Karma is always in the making. Whatever the condition, make the best of it for the moment. And if the scale against you be too heavy, never mind, you have done your best. and that will have done into other scale and made them more equal for the whole of your future. Exertion is always wise, no matter it seems hopeless. You have diminished the weight against you. Every effort has its full result, and the wiser you are, the better you can think and the desire and act. If you think of karma thus, it will never paralyze you but always inspire you. But you say, there are some things after all in which my fate is too strong for me. You can sometimes trick destiny when you cannot meet it face to face. When sailing against contrary winds, the sailor cannot change the wind, but he can change the set of the sails. The direction of the ship depends on the relation of the sails to the wind, and by the careful tacking, you can never nearly sail against a contrary wind, and by a little extra labor reach your port. That is the parable about karma. If you cannot change your fate, change yourself and meet it at a different angle, and you will go gliding away successfully where failures seem inevitable. Skill in action is yoga, and that is one way in which the wise man rules his stars instead of being ruled by them. The things that are really inevitable and in which you cannot change your attitude endure. They are very few. When there is some destiny so mighty that you can only bow down before it and yield, even then learn from it, and out of the destiny you will gather a flower of wisdom that perhaps a happier fate might not have enabled you to pluck. And so, in every way, we find that we can meet and conquer, and even from defeat may pluck the flower of victory. In that way, we learn the theosophic life, and it becomes reality more and more with every week we live. The theosophical life must be a life of service. Unless we are serving, we have no right to live. We live by the constant sacrifice of other lives on every side, and we must pay it back. Otherwise, to use an ancient phrase, we are but thieves and we do not repay the gift. Service is the great illuminator. The more we serve, the wiser we become. For we learn wisdom not by studying but by living. There is a sense in which the saying is perfectly true. He who doth the will shall know of the doctrine. To live the life of service clears the mental atmosphere of the distorting fogs of prejudice, passion, temperament. Service alone makes the eye single, so that the whole body is full of light, and only those who serve are those who truly live. The theosophical ideal is one which must permeate the being of every one of us on the amount that we give in service to others. We can claim the service of those are higher than ourselves. They who serve humanity serve in proportion to the services given. They are bound to send out life in pipes that will carry it everything and distribute. They seek in order that they may serve humanity. Those who live are one long service to the race. I do not mean by service only those great acts of service done by the martyr or the hero. Whenever you serve one man or woman in love, you serve the race. In India, every truly religious man offers 5 sacrifices every day. One of these sacrifices is the sacrifice to men. As we might say to the sacrifice to humanity, the application of that is that before the householder eats his own food, he must feed someone who has need of food. Only when he has fed another, may he take his own. We serve the race in serving our nearest neighbor, and we may glorify every pettiest act of service by seeing behind the recipient the great idol. In serving you, I save the race, you are the race's hand. Life becomes great when we look at it from this wider outlook, when we see things as they are instead of being blinded by the outer performance. Let our lives be great and not pretty. The great life is the happy life, and the one whose ideals are great is himself great. For matter shapes itself to the will of the informing spirit. and a life petty from the outer standpoint may be made by the splendor of the ideal that ensouls it. If we cannot do great things, let us do small things perfectly. For perfection lies in the perfection of every detail and not in the size of the act. There is nothing great, nothing small from the standpoint of the self. The act of the king whose will shape a nation is no more great from the standpoint of the self than the act of the mother who nurses a crying child. Each is necessary is part of the divine activity. Because necessary it is great in its own place, and the whole not by one part is the life of the self. It is like a mighty mosaic, and any fragment which is not in its own place makes a blot in the perfection of the whole. Our lives are perfect as they fill the appointed gap in the great mosaic, and if we leave our work untoned while we earn, after some other two places may be left and the whole ill done. These are some of the lessons which underline the life which is really theosophical. In this way, theosophical becomes a help, a mighty power, and thus we can live our lives will preach theosophy better than the tongue of any speaker, however skillful or eloquent. For there are but few speakers, while there are many who live, and the lips may preach more eloquently than by skill of tongue. This is the message I here would give. This is the inspiration I would desire to breathe into the life of every reader. The inspiration which, however imperfectly, I lead my own. For I find as these thoughts grow stronger and the more compelling, as they become to me lived realities, not only beautiful theories, all life becomes splendid, no matter what the outer circumstances is. And Besant clearly says what is the role of a theosophist. See, the main thing is we need to do service. What is service? Service is doing something without expecting anything. Without expecting anything. And not inside a particular place. You are going to theosophy and doing service. But are you doing service in your home? Then if we check, we ask our members, then they will not accept as a theosophy. So a charity begins at home. See, whatever small things in a life is very important. Madame Blavatsky has given an example while she was walking. She saw a child walking with their mother through the road, and the child was picking some waste paper and putting it into the dustbin. Voice of Silence, Madame Blavatsky explains it. So everywhere it is told. See, we think that we need to do great things. We need to give money. We need to give food for others. No, no, no. It's not that. See, even if you are in the kitchen, if you are cooking, if you're putting a coffee or tea, let it be anything. Even the way in which we eat. See, in India there is a tradition before we eat, we put some food to the what you call the Lord Ganapati. It's not for the Lord Ganapati, then the birds will come and eat it. Birds will come and eat it. In China, they have a system wherein they will take a part of the food and they will put it in a place in their puja room, the divine space. In Christianity, before eating, there is a prayer to the God, an offering. In Hindu also there is a prayer. So this is the thing is there. We are taking food on lust. We are not taking food for survival. So our daily activity, if you watch, we ourselves are the violence is not outside actually. See, you love yourself, you love your neighbor as yourself. How many of us are loving us? Unconditional love to us. We always complain about our color, our size, our money, our belongings, our relationship, everything we will go on complain. No, that is not there. So Annie Besant very clearly says that see, here don't correct other people. Don't try to correct other people. You correct yourself. See, there is only one world. When you are the world, Jiddu Krishnamurti says, you are the world. The violence is inside you. Change yourself. Then the world changes. The light illuminates in us. These are the great things to be done by the Theosophist. And even if when we go to a Theosophy or anywhere, if some quarrel is going on, as Annie Besant said, that is perfect. That is a divine plan. All is well. That's why she says, learn reincarnation, learn karma. What is karma? It's not a burden. Whatever we think and act, we should see that it should not increase our karma. All our existing karmas which came with our past life should go to zero. Very simple thing. When we know this knowledge, what will we say? If someone beats us, or if someone uses bad words on us, if someone takes money from us, we can say, I am sorry because I know in the past life I have done to you. I take responsibility. I know this divine knowledge. Thanking you for giving me this opportunity to reduce my karma. I love you. It's very simple. This is Theosophy, this is the practical Theosophy. And this is what Annie Besant says. And if anyone is following, then he is the real Theosophist. And all the others are in the path of a Theosophist. End of the day, they will reach it. But they should follow this divine rules. Without following the divine rules, no one can become a Theosophist. Thank you. And those who are not subscribed may kindly subscribe and share to other groups that are like people who would be benefited by this talk. And also click the bell button all so that you can get all notifications. Weekly 4 to 5 talks I am making. Thank you very much.